And we are live. VC Wisdom Pod. Guest could also be a CEO and founder Wisdom Pod because we have all three today. Penny Schiffer is with us. She is CEO and co-founder at Raized.ai. I really love the startup name. She's in Zurich, Switzerland. It's a beautiful place, Switzerland. I love the quality of entrepreneurs there. Had a lot of them as clients and on the pod. This pod is brought to you by Podbuyer. If you want to start or scale your own, I was about to say startup, but podcast. If you want, you can start a podcast of startups if you want, just like mine. It'll get you insights. It'll get you great guests like Penny Schiffer that we have with us today. You'll get smarter. You'll get connections, subscribers, and even clients. Podbuyer.com. Penny Schiffer is with us today. Raized.ai is her company. Really glad to have her on. Penny, can you introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about Raized?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. So yeah, I have started Raized as a startup company about 3 years ago when I realized out of my own experience as a venture capital investor that this industry is ripe for disruption. I mean, it's funny to see that investors are investing in the most advanced technology that can change the world. And at the same time, they are using very little technology, or they have been using very little technology for their own business until kind of fairly recently. And it was actually on a flight to San Francisco that it really struck me through the conversation with my neighbor that I wanted to switch sides. After I had been in the venture capital industry as an investor for almost 10 years, I decided, okay, why not disrupt my own industry with a data-driven solution to make it more efficient, but also to generate better outcomes for the whole industry. Yeah, and that's when I decided, okay, let's evaluate how this can become a startup, how we can build a technology that can scale so that we become a startup ourselves, innovating into the venture capital industry.
Love this niche. VC tech is one of the niche I'm most bullish about. So who do we have there? Well, that I know, there's Crunchbase, there's like all these databases that also allow you to get insights about who's raising, who's not, who's apt to invest in what field, so real like that field. What's the AI component to it, and how does it distinguish itself from other tools out there?
Yeah, so we are building the platform in a way that the investors are sourcing deals, or how the deal origination works. So what we have built so far is an engine that discovers about 10,000 new startup companies every month and makes them available in a very personalized way. So that's the first part of the VC value chain, the deal sourcing. And here we are using AI on the one hand for the data augmentation, and we are using AI to recommend the best matching startups to each and every investor. It's a self-learning system for the deal origination. When you look at the VC value chain, the next step is actually the screening of startup companies and to find the ones that are a best match to your investment thesis and that have the best chances to succeed. So here we are using a scoring approach that is using machine learning, some sophisticated feature engineering that is reflecting the subject matter expertise into our system. And as a step 3, we are moving into the due diligence phase, and we want to augment the VC analyst or the investment manager by giving them tools that help them to do a market analysis faster, that can also go through lots of documents that you can have in a data room and really help you navigate all this information in a way that is easy, that incorporates the subject matter expertise. So that's a bit the future, right? So with the advent of large language models, or the accessibility of large language models for folks like us, we can now see that this is within reach. So this is now becoming a reality. And we have already started with first evaluations and testing of things. And I have to say, I'm really amazed by what we can build. I give you one example. So what we can do now is we can extract all the information we have about a startup, and we can turn it into a structured investment memo document using a complex prompt in ChatGPT. So before that, this would have been very complex. You would have had to write a lot of rules. The outcome would have been underwhelming. And now you can make it happen in a way that is really amazing and that is very impressive to see. So that's for the current AI aspects, but in the future, we even want to be able to help you navigate through a large data room with natural language. So you ask a question, how many people does the company have? Do you see inconsistencies? And it will show it right in your face what you have to say about a startup company.
Love it. How much VCs need to pay to have access to that tool?
Yeah, so the VCs have to pay $300 per month. We have a lower subscription that is just for the angels that are using it for their own purposes. And then depending on the volume that you use, we have higher subscriptions for the bigger funds. And by the way, I invite everybody to go for a free trial. So we love to have people test the platform before they buy, because that's the only way how you can judge if our tool works better for your purposes than any other tool.
I just booked a demo on my end. I target VCs for this pod. You know, once I get a VC in my pipeline, I ask them to refer me startups so that I can either help them to start their podcast or increase their lead gen, which is something that is quite needed this year in this economic climate. Talking about that, what have you seen this year trending or downtrending, or should I say, what positive trend have you seen in the VC ecosystem, and what negative trend have you seen this year?
Yeah, that's not easy to say. So I'd say a lot of our customers and prospects are let's say, re-evaluating where they stand, and no surprise, it's harder for them to raise their next funds. So we have seen some of our customers who were not able to close in time, or they had even people who wouldn't adhere to their capital calls, so they wouldn't even give the money, although it was signed. So for VCs, it's difficult to raise the money that they can then hand out to startup companies. That's one thing. It also puts cost pressure on the VC companies, but there is also, you know, a positive thing that can come out of it, which is you make your business more future-proof, and also you try to make it more cost-efficient. So we can at the same time see that there is an openness to use tools and to be more efficient in a much stronger way than there was 1 or 2 years ago. So that's maybe on the positive side. But yeah, I hear everything, and it's definitely a climate that has a lot of insecurity for the future. So we don't know what to make of it, to be honest.
And on your side, do you feel this will affect your own rounds of funding? Because what we've seen is that AI companies do get a part of the funding pie. What do you feel will happen with Raise? Are you guys still successfully raising?
Yeah, and we also have already revenue, so we want to not just rely on the venture capital funding alone. So we have closed an angel round. That's a good start, and also it helps to keep our independence, because see, we are making technology for venture firms. So if we had one big investor or maybe two, this would also put us in a position that other people would think that we would be biased, or that there would be an interest towards this company. So by having angel investment money and public funding, we can keep our independence, and we think this helps us in the market as well.
Right. How do you compete with big boys like PitchBook, Owler, CBI Insights? Like, aren't these folks already thinking and building with their team of 50, 100 top engineers the features we're trying to build?
Well, I don't know what they are doing inside. I mean, no one knows, right? But I can say what I see when I look at their products. So the products haven't innovated a lot in the last 12 to 18 months. So this may have many reasons. It's possible that they are expanding into new customer areas, and that they are not building the product further right now. It's also possible that they have quite a strong legacy, which obviously they have. And the legacy means that they are very stable and that they have really a strong IP, but it also means that it is much harder to innovate and to risk something. I mean, imagine they would come up with a feature and the feature is not perfect, and then people would blame them, right? So I think they have to adhere to a higher quality standard, and they have a lot of legacy in their system, which makes them slower in adding innovation to it. So that's my observation here. And of course, I'm sure that they are building new things as we speak, but we haven't seen them launched. And I don't think that this is going to be something that happens like tomorrow.
AI and what we've been seeing this year, first, like GPT-4 was kind of groundbreaking, that's a new word, with just how much time that saved us. Then a bunch of people began being pretty good at prompting. We've seen advancement with that. We've seen agencies going. Then we've seen the AI wave in San Francisco, precisely Hayes Street, in which there's all these meetups. People are advancing super quick. What do you predict will happen in the next 6 months in AI, and how do you think this will affect your business?
Yeah. So I think a few of the things that we are now seeing coming, they will advance and they will accelerate. For example, I'm sure that you've seen with Code Interpreter that there is now ways how you can analyze financial data. Of course, this is not going to be perfect in a day or two, and probably it will never be perfect, but it will be a way to augment people who have some knowledge into really analyzing much more data and using some expert knowledge in a very efficient way. And I think the fact that ChatGPT initially couldn't calculate 1 + 1 should not blind us from seeing that this is now happening, and that this will happen much faster than we thought it would happen. So we can already see the first products that use the new models to analyze financial data, and this is going to be standard. I think it won't be long until we see that large language models will be seen as an infrastructure component, almost like a virtual computing, and it will be like everywhere. And also, sorry, one more thing, we can see that there is now going to be a shift or a different layers of innovation. So before, when you wanted to do something with AI, you had to master all the lower level infrastructure components before you could even work on something topic related. And now this is taken care of. You can now tap into it. You have an API. You don't need to do this kind of infrastructure work anymore, but you can jump right into your topics, and the subject matter experts, for that reason, will be much more important actually than they used to be. Again, I want to tell you a funny story that demonstrates this, and it was eye-opening for me. So the first experiments we did with the vector database that we are using to do semantic search, the first experiments, we were so happy when we got some output out of it. And, we asked, like, can you show us startups that are similar to this? And we wanted to see the startups. So my engineer looked at the output and said, hey, look at what we've got. This is so amazing. And I looked at it and said, you know what? I think all of the companies are made up. This is hallucinating. We are not doing the right thing. And he said, yeah, but, this is all companies. And he couldn't see that they were all made up because he's not a subject matter expert as deep as I am. And without this, he would have thought he's done. And only when the subject matter expert looks at the outcomes, they are able to judge if this is a good outcome, if they accept it, and how to improve the prompts further. And this is a funny thing and not easy for the developers to accept, that they cannot just take a requirement and build for themselves, but to evaluate the output, they will have to use subject matter expertise.
Love it. How do you think Switzerland's ecosystem, startup ecosystem is doing right now? And how do you think that Europe can compete at large with hubs like San Francisco? Yeah.
So I think this is also, again, not an easy question to answer. The challenge here is that the funding that we can have in Switzerland or in Europe in general is, of course, not as big. And there is cases where the funding is not the main thing, but the talent and being fast and building stuff is more important. But then when it comes to scaling to a Series B, to a Series C, it becomes oftentimes much more important to have the funds to capture the market, especially when you have B2C topics. And here we see that it's very hard to finance them with European money alone, and even with Swiss money alone. I mean, Switzerland is a small country. It has its unique educational places, and it has a strong workforce. But when it comes to the market size and the financial means you can have, it is definitely a small place. On the other hand, it means when you have a small country, you naturally go and explore the world. So there are strong connections with Silicon Valley, with other places of the world. There is teams that are founded by people from many countries. So that's maybe a way to help it. But in terms of speed and financial means, it's a completely different world in the US.
Last but not least, are you using Raized yourself to still invest in some startups and or to reach great LPs, GPs to co-invest with them? Do you still invest nowadays, basically?
Yeah, so I still do scouting for new technology, and I'm oftentimes, like almost every week, surprised at what I find in my own dashboard. However, at this point in time, I'm not investing more of my own money because I have already invested in 25 startup companies with my own funds, and I kind of keep the money together at this stage. I would love to see a few more exits, so I have some candidates that are close so that I could start investing again. But at this stage, I'm just consuming my own solution and enjoying what I see.
Love it, Penny. Where can people find out more about you and Raized?
Yeah, go to www.raized.ai and sign up for a free trial. We love to see you and onboard you. So we do the trial in a way that you can check out for 3 weeks the solution. We do a quick onboarding call depending on your requirements so that we make sure you get what you want. And then you are free to use it and we help you to make the most of it.
This was Penny Schiffer, Raized.ai, and Charles Cormier on LinkedIn, podbuyer.com if you want to start or scale a pod. Thank you so much, Penny. I got a lot of value from that call, lots of great questions answered.